Welcome to Return on Insights, the show where candid conversations with bold founders and leaders spark actionable insights for your business. I'm David Lindover.
And I'm Erin Abitangelo. Each week, we pull back the curtain with leaders who are scaling teams and shaping the future, sharing the insights that create impact far beyond the bottom line.
Discover how high-performing companies build enduring cultures, inspire teams to think bigger, and turn vision into action. If you see storytelling as your strategic advantage, you're in the right place. Good day, and welcome to Return on Insights podcast. I'm David Lindover. In today's rapidly evolving regulatory landscape, understanding the art of listening is crucial for effective compliance training. Listening first isn't just a catchphrase. It's the foundation for building trust, ensuring learning relevance, and driving real organizational change. Our guest today, Avi Singer, CEO of ShowedMe, stands out for making client feedback the heart of his approach to training. Having successfully navigated the leap from tech to healthcare, Avi brings fresh insights on how tailored, attentive engagement can transform compliance outcomes. In this episode of our podcast, he shares how ShowedMe is redefining industry standards by focusing on authentic client needs and experiences. Welcome to the show, Avi.
Thank you so much for having me, David. I really appreciate it. Good to be here.
First question. So what surprised you most about client expectations when you transitioned from tech to healthcare?
Yeah, it was a transition for us. You know, when you're running a tech company, you get so focused on your technology, what you've built, what you're trying to sell, what you're trying to solve, that really becomes a big part of the conversation. You know, trying to display all the shiny things, trying to make sure that people are aware of all the features and all the buzz that's part of your product. What people really want from you is they want to be heard. They want you to understand what their challenges are. They want you to hear what their problems are. And they really want to understand, how are you going to help me with those challenges? And that was a big shift for us as an organization to move from the bells and whistles and really trying to highlight the things that we thought were exciting, to really making sure that we were solving a real need that they had.
How does ShowedMe differentiate itself in an industry that's full of content libraries and generic training products?
That was also something that took some time for us to evolve, because you're right. I mean, there are lots of learning management platforms out there. There are lots of libraries that have education around healthcare and compliance. For us, what we understood through our conversations was that beyond the technology, beyond the course library, and beyond what that to offer, what clients were really looking for was help. And what we realized was they didn't just want us to sell them a piece of technology and sell them the library and say, hey, I hope you can use this. I hope it'll be effective. But how could we be actually involved in the day-to-day process? And that's why we've created something we call a managed service. So we actually help them with setting up their technology. We help them with ensuring that the right content is delivered to the right employee at the right time. So we don't just simply sell it to them and then we're gone. We're involved on a daily basis in understanding what are they dealing with, what does the state want from them, what do their patients want from them, and how can we help them solve all those challenges.
So can you describe a moment when truly listening to a client transformed your approach or your offering?
It's hard to really pinpoint one specific moment. I think it was over the first few months. And as I described before, I was just going out there and selling a solution. The client started just explaining to me that, hey, that's not what we're looking for. Like, we're not looking to buy something from you, right? We're really looking to partner with a vendor who understands the challenges of staying compliant in a very, very dynamic and very challenging environment, and understands a lot about the industry. And that's really what changed for me. And I started really spending a lot more time talking to people in the industry and not trying to sell them, but just understanding, what does your day look like? What do your employees' days look like? What do your patients' days look like? What happens when the state comes into a facility, when the state comes into your office, and what does that look like? And through that, I gained an expertise in the industry, and the conversation really shifted through that. Once I gained an expertise in the industry, now I'm more talking about, okay, what happens when you have survey? What happens when you get audited? What happens when there's an incident? And then how can we help you with all those things?
Makes good sense. So how do you evaluate and select which clients are the best fit for ShowedMe?
So it's ones that can appreciate what we do. There are many who come and say, hey, there's a competitor of yours who might be a little less expensive. There's a competitor of yours who maybe has more a larger library or things like that. Um, when we hear that they need help, that they're actually looking for assistance, then we know it's a good fit for us. Then we realize, okay, this is somebody who can benefit from what we're offering. We are a premium offering. We do charge more in often cases than our competitors do. But if they can appreciate what comes with the technology, what comes with the course library, then we know, hey, this is somebody who's going to benefit fully from our solution, and they're going to be a good partner for us. We're very, very fortunate. As an example, 3 of our first clients that we ever signed up on our platform are still clients of ours today, 8 years later. So that just tells us we understood what their challenge was from day one, and we continue to evolve with them as they evolve.
Definitely speaks volumes. So, what role does face-to-face interaction play in the conflict resolution and trust building part?
When I started, it was huge. So I would say for the first 3-4 years of the company, I don't think we signed one contract without me actually personally showing up in someone's office, shaking their hand, sitting with them, and building that confidence. Um, I think COVID changed a lot. I learned to trust, I learned to build confidence, and I learned to build rapport through, Zoom meetings or things like that. Um, so I would say it just evolved. I think it's still face to face. I still think it's a trust conversation. I think when people sign a contract with us, it's not because of our solution, our technology solution, or things like that. I think it's really that they're trusting us that when they're going to have a need or as their needs to evolve, we're going to be able to support that. So, yeah, definitely a lot of face to face day one. We still do go to a lot of trade shows because of it. I think it's great to meet our existing clients who sometimes have never met in person after a couple of years, and they meet them at trade shows, or sometimes meeting new clients at trade shows. But once you're able to have that sort of face-to-face interaction and you build that rapport, you build that trust, the sales process is certainly a lot easier.
I totally agree with you. So, what emerging trends are shaping the future of compliance in healthcare and any other industries that you're targeting?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is taking over everything, right? So, training has always been around providing the right solution to the right employee at the right moment, right? And that's always been the sort of holy grail of training, right? It's like, what do they need right now? Is it a compliance thing? Is it an incident? Like, how do we make that they're getting delivered the training that they need today, for whatever that need is? Um, I think what we're going to see with AI is that's just going to evolve even faster. I think we'll be able to, and already starting to look at solutions where we can look at their existing systems and understand needs as they happen. So if there's an incident that's been reported in a facility or at a patient's home, how can we immediately address that incident that happened? If we're starting to see behaviors that are evolving and changing, how can we sort of automatically evolve our training and what we're delivering to really match that need? So I think it's going to go from what I would say is much more static right now. So clients deciding, hey, this is what we want to train our employees on, or this is what the state is saying we should do, or this is what the federal government requires because of various regulations, to a combination of static training because that's what the regulations are, but then also combining that with real-time data that's then going to tell us or tell our systems, this is what the employee really needs right now.
So, last question, Avi. What are the top 2 tips you have for companies looking to personalize their customer experience at scale?
Yeah, I would say the first one was the one we started the conversation with. I think, one of the things I talk to our employees about is, almost like, you got to leave you got to leave your personality and leave your toolkit at the door. In that first meeting, it's leave everything there. You walk in just a blank slate and just say, hey, I think I know a little bit about this industry. I want to learn more about how your company sits and is within this industry, and and then just spend that time, right? And then you can come back and say, hey, I'm not here to sell you a solution. I'm here to sell you a solution that I think fits your specific needs. And we've been very, very successful by doing that, by coming in and saying, hey, you have an adoption issue, you have an engagement issue, you have a completion issue. Good. Let's talk about how we can solve that versus also the generic marketing that we can put out there and say, this is our completion rates and these are our, all the other metrics we can put out there, but really tailoring it to their specific need. We've been very successful at that, and it's been super helpful for us in terms of conversion rates and really maximizing every opportunity that we get. I would say the other is just being honest. If we can't do something, then we need to be able to say we can't do it. I think sometimes as a tech company or someone who might be new to a space, that voice in your head is saying, tell me you can do it, you'll figure it out, all those things. You want to be successful. I mean, bottom line is, even if you can't solve all their problems, if you're successful at solving one or two of the problems, you're gonna be successful. You'll have the opportunity to expand and do all those other things. But I think if you oversell your solution early on and you're like, hey, it does everything, it'll make you coffee, make you breakfast, and everything else, and then it doesn't, you start from a position behind. So those are the two tips I always give people who are starting tech companies. Number one, don't get enamored with your product. People don't really care about the product; they care about the solution. And number two, make sure it does whatever you say it's going to do. And if you can do those two things, I think you'll have a opportunity. And if you don't, it might be a little more challenging early on.
I think that's great advice for companies in any industry. So thank you, Avi. Really appreciate your time today, and hopefully we'll get to speak again.
Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate the time.